Oh, wait. All right, so yeah, we've got Fulco and Maritz here next to me in person. We've got Lucas Vasta, who is a previous winner of Motoko Bootcamp, and we've got Ted. And if we have any other dev mentors in the attendee list, if you could raise your hand right now, that'd be great. And I'll make sure, I didn't want to miss anyone. I want to make sure I can add all the dev mentors as panelists. I think we're good though. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. We've got a lot of dev mentors here and a lot of talent. I know everyone's gotten a chance to start working on their projects, on their challenges. This is your time to really ask any questions you want. It's just open Dev Mentor Hour where there's no presentation. So feel free to raise your hand on the attendee list or to also go ahead and ask a question in the Q&A if you want. All right, Hugo, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, perfect. So I have a question. I was reading day 2 challenges and like the information. I have trouble understanding what's the difference between the web page and the interface. Why can't we have both in a single canister? If my question is clear enough, I don't.
Yeah, I was talking. So was this day 2 just challenges, or was this? So
it's like the task for today for the core project is to create the skeleton of the project, and we have to set up 3 different canisters, a web page canister and an interface canister on the front end side. And I was just wondering, like, what's the difference? Like, why can't we have both an interface and a web page? Like, why do we need a web page, and like, why do we need 2 canisters and not a single one?
So the interface is going to be used to vote and create proposals, and the web page is what will change. Like, let's say a proposal is update text to Motoko Bootcamp, then the web page will be updated to display Motoko Bootcamp. And the web page is going to be very simple. It's just like a blank web page with some text. So you can actually implement all of this in Motoko. You cannot really have like a proper front end fully in Motoko. So that's the web page. And why is there so much canister? Maybe you can do it with 1 canister, but I wanted to have some inter-canister calls because it's a bit challenging, and that will be like a proper exercise.
Okay, very interesting. That's clear. Thanks.
I can give some additional context. The canister that you use for the front end is an asset canister that has been developed by Dfinity, and it's written in Rust. So you can technically put the front end and the other calls in the same canister, but then you would have to write that front end canister from scratch in Motoko, and that would be quite a bit of effort. If you want to see the asset canister, the code is public on the Dfinity GitHub repository. And if you want to see an example of a canister that has both the front end and other update and query calls in the same canister, you can check out the Internet Identity canister, which does that. So it is possible, but it would be a lot of extra effort when they already created this nice asset canister.
Okay, so can I elaborate on the question now, if possible?
Sure.
So basically, once a proposal is passed, it will like call the web page canister, and the web page canister will like change the basically what it displays, right?
Yeah. So you don't think of it as just like a web page canister. Think of it as like, pretend it's a DApp. You're having a DAO controlling a DApp. Like that's the ultimate. Like that's ultimately what we're trying to test. So it's not like there's just 2 interfaces and everything like that.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you very much. That's all.
To add on that, there actually is an implementation of the asset canister in Motoko. I think you can find it on the Aliad Labs repository. I mean, it's not like officially written by Dfinity, but I think it's like a very close implementation to what the Rust canister provides in functionality.
See, this is already pretty cool because like I just learned some stuff from Foucault and I just learned that too now. So this is pretty dope. Yeah.
And also like one nice thing about the asset canister written from Dfinity is that it has like certified variables, which basically allows you to make sure that the assets that are returned by the asset canister are actually like valid assets, and that like not one node in the subnet is kind of like faking the response and serving you like a different UI. Yes, I can send the link to it in the Discord probably. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead and send it on Discord. That sounds great. So does that cover everything, Hugo?
Yes, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna ask, we're gonna go back and forth between live and the Q&A. So Tom McCann asked in the Q&A, I'm a little bit confused about data persistence. How do I change state? And you know what, Lucas, you could probably take this one. This is kind of like a good beginner question, and I don't know. I think everyone would like to hear from a former Motoko Bootcamp winner.
I'm not sure if I get the question right, but basically, if you hold some data in the canister, you can create a function to change it. But I'm not sure if I am answering the right question.
Yeah, you know, maybe Tom, would you feel comfortable if you want to jump on audio and talk a little bit more about what you're asking here? All right, well, so Tom, raise your hands, and then when you raise your hand, it pops to the top of my list, and I'll grant you audio. All right, there we go. Yeah. All right, now you can unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, one of the exercises asked us to change state. And the only way I could get it to work was to declare the variable as stable. And then later on, I read that you should only really use stable if you wanted to persist between upgrading the code. So is that the right way to do it? Because until I declared the variable as stable, it didn't seem to be, persisting.
Yeah, sure. I think that's the right way to do it. If you create a stable variable, then it persists the state between updates. And if you don't, go on.
But if you take the updating the contract out of the equation, and you say, for example, you weren't going to do that, is there a way to do this without it being a stable variable?
Well, I guess you have another option to use post-upgrade and pre-upgrade function, where you can define what needs to happen between updates, and then you can, for example, store the content in a stable variable between updates, and then use a not stable variable to hold the state when you are not updating. I guess I'm a bit confusing, but maybe somebody can say it better.
Yeah, Tom, I can see your code, but if you want the update to persist, it needs to be an update call and not a query call. So perhaps the problem is that you made a function that, I don't know, adds 1 to a counter or something, but you made it a query call, and then it won't persist, even if you do something like +1 to the variable.
Okay, so do I have to explicitly say it's an update function instead of a query function?
No, you just omit the word query from the
Yeah,
function
yeah.
declaration.
If it's not a query call, then it's an update call.
Okay, well, I will give that another try. Thanks for your answer.
Awesome, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have the code. Feel free to send it on Discord.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right. Mohammed Amir, talking's permitted now.
Hi guys, are you okay?
Doing good.
Hi guys, I had a quick question. So according to the instructions, it seems like we need to do use Svelte for the front end. I've not used it before. Is it okay to carry on with React, or do we have to use Svelte? Is that going to make it easier for you guys to basically the code? Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to use Svelte. Sorry, what were you saying, Seb?
Yeah, I should take that. So yeah, it's okay to use something else. We're using Svelte because we really like it and we think it's good for what we're trying to do for this week. There will be code samples provided in Svelte. So because the goal of the week is of course not to write Svelte, but Motoko.
Yeah.
If you want to use something else, feel free to do it. The canister interface is really like not the focus of this week. So like that will not be a lot, that will not impact a lot your code project if the front end is not nice. And if it's really nice, that's cool, but this is the focus of the week.
Yeah, I had a quick look. I don't think it's too complicated. So I think I might as well just use it, see how it goes. I just didn't want to waste too much time on it and, you know, get sidetracked from the actual project.
It's actually really easy to pick up and to like maybe further incentivize the usage of it. I think it was voted like the framework with the best developer satisfaction in the past 2 years, 2 years for front-end work, and also Dfinity uses well for the NNS, for example. So it's a really nice.
Yeah. So like, and I included a link in my presentation, but it's really easy to find. They have an interactive tutorial, literally within 15 to 30 minutes. You can pick up almost anything you need to know, and it's really cool. You pick whatever type of thing you want to do. And it has like a live compiler. So it tells you, what, how this works. It shows you an example, and then like you can like try it out yourself, all really fast and easy. So it's honestly one of the lowest touch ways to get a front end knocked out of the way.
Sounds good. I think we'll probably just go with that and see how it goes. Sounds like a good option. Thank you very much.
No problem. All right, and Denny, yeah, you asked for the URL to Motoko asset canister, and yeah, and so that was just posted on the general chat in Discord, so you're all good. All right, Sabello, you can feel free to unmute.
Awesome, thank you so much, gents. Quick one, with regard to the core project. Is it such that we have to build a dApp that has a governance structure from the DAO, or is it that we just build a DAO relatively similar to the simple DAO that we have as an example?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm just, so you're asking.
Yeah, because I was kind of figuring that the way it's kind of worded right now, the DAO itself would end up being sort of a governance structure for, I suppose, the management of a particular decentralized application. So is it such that we build a DAO similar to the simple one in the examples that are available in the sample code? Or is it such that we build an underlying application with a core functionality that has governance sort of managed by a decentralized autonomous organization?
I mean, yeah, so like the requirements are for 3 canisters to be there, and one is the interface to make proposals and vote and interact with it. The second is the logic of the DAO, which is going to basically just apply or not apply the proposals. And then the third is the thing being affected. So its controller is that DAO canister. And when a proposal is applied, it changes its state. So So I mean, we're using it's a very, very slimmed down DAO. It's almost, you know, it has all the major components that go into a DAO, but like we can't ask you to literally like recreate the SNS, right? So think really, really small. I think maybe that'll be helpful in this context. But it's essentially you just have one canister being controlled by another one that follows very DAO-like rules. It's looking for token holders, system proposals, you know, basic functions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no problem. I think. So Lee, I see you're asking a particular question here regarding Svelte. I don't know, does any dev mentor here have any kind of the front end experience to answer this one? I feel like this might be more of a Svelte specific Googleable one.
Yeah, you can deploy like serverless functions to the IC because they mostly run on Node, and on the IC, canisters can only run WebAssembly, so it's not really possible to deploy serverless functions to the IC. You just have to make like, I think the example will probably have a static adapter that turns all the Svelte files into static files when they build.
Okay, and yeah, and you can raise your hand, Lee, if you want to expound on that more, but I think that's a pretty solid answer from Fulco. All right, Musa, you go ahead.
Hello, hi everyone. So I've been trying to run my canister locally, but I got an error running that. Something like a main panic at creating the. I got some error, Rust backtrace errors, but I've been trying to fix that. So yeah, it's not. I don't really get a solution to that. I don't know why that is the case, but I've been able to run it on the mainnet, but running it locally is giving me a challenge. So I don't know how to resolve it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of error is it?
I think there's. I don't have a way to upload the error message, but I think something like unwrap error. Yeah, the stuff said run with Rust backtrace 1 environmental variable to display backtrace. So then it will abort. So and when I try to use DFX deploy, so I always get the error that canister ID not created, something like that.
Do you maybe have like a example repository that you can provide?
Do we need him to share a screen?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm working on I joined the Zoom via my phone, so the code is on my system.
I'll tell you what, it sounds like you've got something kind of specific going on, possibly with your setup and environment. Once you include some screenshots and add a thread to the ask questions in Discord, because that way we can kind of dive into it. It's a little hard. There's certain types of problems that are a little hard without visuals to walk through.
Okay, I've actually asked same question on Discord in the general channel, so maybe I should drop it in the ask questions.
Yeah. Please make sure you go through the ask questions channel. It's hard to do troubleshooting over general chat because things get lost really quickly. So that's why we set up that other area for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we've got a question in the Q&A from Andrew. Motoko Bootcamp token is an ICRC1 standard. Actually, I can query directly the canister made by IC Pipeline as part of their faucet, but to implement functions of neurons, there is necessary to freeze some of the funds of users. Could you provide some more details or ideas about reading users' balances and Motoko Bootcamp tokens and modification of their balances.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I mean, you could potentially just like when someone wants to transfer tokens using the transfer method of ICRC1, you could just like inside that method check if there's like a restriction for that user's account or funds or something. And then if this is the case, then you just like do not allow them to transfer funds, which is basically similar to like locking tokens inside a neuron, I guess. It's not like an implementation suggestion, but it's something like how you could do it. And you could also like in a data structure, basically store like the address as a key. And then as a value, you store like a timer value, for example. So if a user wants to transfer tokens, what you do is you basically take the address where the tokens should be transferred from. You look that address up in your data structure with the address as a key, then you get back the value, which basically contains a timer that tells you how long the tokens are locked for, maybe something like this. And yeah, if the address is present in the data structure, then the user is not allowed to transfer funds. I don't know if that answers your question, but maybe again, also it would be nice if you could like provide a repository or something and point me to where exactly you are having troubles.
Yeah, and I think so. I don't think like replicating neuron functionality is exactly part of this of the requirements. It's asking like make sure that users who have a balance of such and such can do such and such. So it's not saying that like neurons have to have a neuron, that users have to have a neuron that's locked or anything. Like like I said, we're not asking you to replicate the actual SNS or NNS. It's just you gotta just check the balances of users. However, if you were to try to like go the extra mile to try to go with honors or something else, well, the way I would do it is I would actually have them transfer their tokens into an account owned by and controlled by the canister, and then just apply rules to that account that the canister controls. And it like won't send them back their tokens unless the dissolve delay goes through. So stuff like that. So then, if the canister controls the account, it can do whatever it wants, apply whatever logic it needs to. So I hope that kind of answers your question, and raise your hand and expound if you want to go into it deeper. All right, so Zane asked, what's the best way to test Matogo Bootcamp token transfers on local environments? Should we create our own local ledger? I mean, you could go down that route. Essentially, you need to create an ICRC1 token and have that deployed locally. I believe we made the code for the Matogo Bootcamp faucet available. But honestly, since you already need to deploy your project and canisters live on the IC anyways, I would straight up just go ahead and deploy a canister live and test interactions. These tokens are free. You can have as many as you want and lose them, do whatever. Don't worry about them. You can always mint more. So I would just test them live and work with them live and not have to worry about setting up a whole local ledger and everything. And there's a lot of things you can test locally, but certain interactions it's fine to just test it in the live environment. So Zane asks, in the same note, what's the preferable auth method to test transfers on local nets? Is it Plug?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend not using Stoic because it doesn't really work locally, at least not for me. Plug is a good choice, especially if you want to set up a local ledger account. You basically have the opportunity to hint plug at the port that this ledger that the locally deployed is listening to. I think you actually provide the port that you specify in your DFX file, or just the default port, which should be 4943. Yeah, that way you can interact with the ledger canister, like with your local ledger canister, directly from plug. And I think if the MB token follows the ICRC1 standard, that plug basically also is able to interact with the ICRC1 standard. So you should be able to transfer tokens on your local machine using the plug wallet.
Yeah, and there's one quick note, and this is kind of more of a thing that's hard to know unless you've been plugged into the ecosystem for a while. Plug was created by Psychedelic, and they recently kind of left, they shifted gears. So a lot of their stuff is unsupported right now. So there's a chance that I don't believe Plug is being updated. It's not broken. It's still going to work. But like when it comes to like, you know, like updates, it's not being updated as of about a month or so ago, and it's not being supported. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so we got HG asking, would it be okay to go down the CK BTC route for the project?
It's possible, but it's not very well documented. So I do not recommend it. I mean, I have a lecture about it on Friday. So if you want to integrate with the CK BTC, you can reach out to me and then I can like help you setting it up. But if you don't want like one-to-one consultancy, then I think it's gonna be like not that easy, and you're probably spending like many hours on figuring out how to get things right. So yeah.
Also, I just want to add that this week is a bootcamp, so there are like clear requirements, and it's not a hackathon. If you want to build something that's different, that might be a problem for us to get the certificate. Because it's impossible to verify like a lot of different projects. So we have to standardize what students are building. And I wouldn't recommend doing that this week, but of course, feel free to do it. I mean, I'm not gonna prevent you to do so, but yeah, for the core project, the requirements have to be followed. That's the deal.
Yes, so basically, finish the requirements for the core project first. And then with the time remaining, add as many bells and whistles as you want to expand and try to get yourself into the top of the class category, because I feel like that's probably what you're going for here. But once the requirements are the way, then it's safe to kind of branch out and add extra things on top. Ultimately, the answer is if you're really brave, go ahead, but also only if you've already done the required parts first. All right, so Zane asked, redeploys cost 10 cents. My concern is that they will add up and faucet cycles will run out eventually. And Moritz already answered by text a bit. So basically try to deploy locally as much as possible for actually testing on mainnet, and that's true. Yeah. Zane asked, I'd use Bitfinity wallet, but afraid it doesn't support testnets. Yeah, I don't know anything specific about Bitfinity's wallet. I don't think we have anyone online here that's an expert on Bitfinity wallet, but I'm not sure if it supports testnets or not.
I don't know either, but I don't think it was a question.
It does? Oh, Seb says that Bitfinity wallet does support testnets.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wait.
I thought the question was on the standard token standard.
Oh, no, he says it supports the token standard. Yeah, we're still not sure if it supports testnets.
Yeah.
All right, so anonymous attendee asks, what are the risks of using a default identity when you deploy in the IC? This is because I have problems when I use a created identity. It's ironic that you're an anonymous attendee asking about using a default identity. I like that. Nice touch. But yeah, so maybe one of these guys here might want to answer something along those lines.
I assume you mean the default DFX identity. In that case, there's not really more security risk than using any other DFX identity, unless you're gonna share that identity across devices.
They're basically all generated the same way, and the default identity is just like the first identity that's being generated when you like start up DFX for the first time. And you can create as many identities as you want. You can use as many identities as you want, which can also be helpful for like the earlier question on how to test transfers locally. You could actually just like create a bunch of local DFX identities, and then, for example, like for your first identity, you mine a couple of DMB tokens, and then you can transfer them to the other identities, switch to the identity that you transfer the tokens to, and then basically check whether the tokens arrived there, and also check whether from the sending identity the tokens were actually like taken from the user's balance. And you can like automate it by just writing a shell script for it, where you basically just write the DFX commands one after the other.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about it. It's not really any different risks involved. And like I personally use the default identity for local development, and then I switched to another identity for deployment. The reason you're probably running into problems when you use a created identity is maybe you're forgetting to like create your Cycles wallet for deploying it. Like there's steps that you typically don't have to do very often, but you do when you first set up, and you might have just forgotten that you have to go back and do those initial setup steps with your new identity. That's probably what's going on there. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Hugo asks, he's making a statement about the hackathon. Yeah, we're going to talk on the closing ceremony about things that we'll do later, but yeah, for now, we're not really going to comment on these kinds of things quite yet. So Zane asked, will there be lectures on how to handle payment flows on the IC with ICRC1, sub-accounts, query blocks, and invoice canisters? You know what? I don't think so. Invoicing and everything is a really important topic. Seb, do you remember if in the Motoko Bootcamp 1, if we had like a payments flow talk?
We had to talk about payments.
Yeah.
But it's a bit outdated on some parts. Some parts are still relevant, but.
Okay, so yeah, so Seb's saying we did have one talk on payments on the IC and Motoko Bootcamp number 1, and that's already on YouTube. It is a bit outdated though. So it's just that this time around, we didn't have a lecturer to speak on that particular topic yet. Hugo asks, regarding the core project, are there any data structures that we are advised to use, or that or we are entirely free to make it as we please? Seb, did we put any data structures specifications in the requirements? No, yeah, no. So we don't care. So execute what's in the requirements. It does not specify any data structures, so you are free to do as you please. All right, so we answered all the questions in the Q&A. Does anyone want to raise their hand or have anything else?
I know I'm late on the day when there is on the queue.
And we are setting up the recordings. Seb says he's late on one of them from day number 1, but we'll work on those recordings out soon. Okay, so Zane asks, are any docs you would advise to read regarding payments to do what's needed for the project? I don't think any payment is needed for the project. You're checking user balances, which is different than payments, and a transfer too is you just transfer from one address to another. Yeah, I don't think.
I mean, if you're interested in like payment flows, there's a basically like a Gitcoin bounty that's that contains some like flow charts on how the payment flow could look like. And there's also a very long thread on the developer forum that basically talks about the same topic. And I think for ICRC1 people decided on using the transfer notify level. So basically when you sell a good, it's a bit complicated to explain this like with words, but I will post the 2 links that I just mentioned in the general channel of the Discord, and then you can read into them if you want to.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's really like reading a balance is pretty simple. You just query that function, and if you want someone to send if you want a user to send funds to the canister, you just provide an address that's unique to them, and they'll send it to that address through their whatever wallet that they're using, and then yeah, you can have functions that essentially can check to see if there's a balance in the wallet that you gave them, and the canister can control it, and you can do things based off that. And if that's if you want to go that route. But Zane, you're able to talk. I see you're unmuted. Feel free to expound on this.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I figured it will be quicker this way, because well, I asked this question because I see 2 sides of the coin, like the core project with just the without the neurons, and that could be done with by checking the balance on the ledger. Though I wasn't sure that was if that were possible, because say I log into the DAO, the principal I have in the DAO is different than the principal I have on the MB ledger. So how can the DAO be sure that the principal I'm giving him to check for the balance is the right one and not somebody else's? Not sure if what I said made sense.
I mean, so the DAO just needs the DAO only has specific rules, like does this principal have this many tokens? It doesn't really care if those are the exact same tokens that came from the faucet. Like having tokens and having ownership is all that it really needs to.
And I also think like if you have like one front end you sign into, like for example, if you have like the page where you like vote on DAO proposals, and your user identifies on that page with like internet identity, then you can use that identity to both make like transactions to the Motoko Bootcamp token ledger and to interact with the governance thingy or DAO.
Yeah.
And also if you would use different like front ends for the like one to interact with the ledger and the other one to interact with the DAO, you can use like authentication methods like NFID or Plug or Bitfinity wallet, and they basically provide the same identity no matter what front end you're logging into. So that way you could probably check that.
All right. Yeah, but the problem is again that the Bitfinity wallet, I don't think it has the local environment testnet capabilities. Only Plug has. I'm not sure if Plug has the this feature with the same principles for every DApp.
Plug does have this feature. So yeah, the idea of this was if you want to like go the internet identity route and implement like it would be complicated, but you could find workarounds, like maybe with intercandy circles and checking, giving the principal and checking the balance that way. Or you can just use a wallet. That would require a bit more work, but there will be resource provided for that. Not on day 2 though. So
all right.
Yeah, the idea right now was to work on the web page stuff, but maybe if you are already done, you can take a look at that. Yeah, that's a good question. That's like one complicated aspect of the project is this management of identity.
Yeah, no, I know it's a little bit ahead. It's not a current concern, but looking at the core project specs, I think handling the payment stuff, the balances is going to be the more cumbersome thing, especially if you want to go beyond and do the neurons. So yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah, and there's a lot of thought that went into the core project because and if we wanted something that didn't have a lot of externalities unrelated to learning Motoko that could over confuse things. So like invoicing, there's a lot of different ways to do that. It's a little undefined. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of hazy around like NFT standards exactly. But like authentication, like this is really important and fundamental, and there's a few different ways to do it. So I think it's good, a good basis to build upon. So anything else, or does that answer your questions there?
No, that's everything. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. All right, so Anonymous Tini asks, is there any internship opportunity after boot camp's completed? Yeah, I mean, I know of a few dev mentors who are looking to hire. Yeah, there'll be lots of opportunities, and there'll be more info on that after, but the knowledge that you're gaining is going to be really useful and worthwhile. So yeah, and then Hugo also asked, how do people join the DAO? Moritz already answered basically that it's just by owning tokens. So you can think of the tokens as membership tokens or whatever. So yeah, that's just the ownership of a token is all you really need.
Yeah, you don't even need to create like a database for members of the DAO. As long as you verify they have token when they vote, that will be like the way to go about that. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, so Hugo's also asked, do people transfer the Motoko Bootcamp token to vote or not? And the answer is no. It's just there's a balance function, and you just from your canister, you call the balance function to see if their principal has a balance of a certain amount or not. Yeah, they just need to hold it. We're not trying to prevent Sybil attacks. These are free tokens to begin with. We're trying to learn the basics of like really basic DAO. We're not saying that this is like a production ready DAO for controlling a company, right? This is a baby DAO for learning. Yeah. All right, Vishnu, you're free to unmute.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. What about you guys?
We're a little tired, but doing all right.
I want to ask about what is the capacity of canister now? It is 4 GB or it is extended to 48 GB?
Seb, didn't you say that was a question that was in the homework for the capacity of a canister?
What is the question?
The storage capacity of the canister, wasn't that a homework question?
Yeah, that's a more question, and they still have time to submit. So
Yeah.
Answer this question.
So
Yeah.
we can't answer this one because this is a homework question. So you're not allowed to have us give you the answers. You gotta look that up.
Okay.
You're asking about storage capacity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you're doing there.
Okay.
You have a good day. All right, HG asks, does internet identity have anything to prevent one person from having several identities? No, it doesn't. So yeah, that's the answer there. It doesn't.
There are a few prevention.
There's a captcha.
Yeah, there's a CAPTCHA, but that's the same human can solve that. Yeah.
No. What? There was a topic about that later, but again. But I think it's at the boundary.
All right, anonymous attendee, and someday will it show how to mince
I think there was.
the Motoko Bootcamp faucet. I think there's a problem with the link earlier, but it should be pretty straightforward. I think you go to the URL and it'd be like you click a button and you get as many of the tokens as you want. You can use that for testing. All right, we got up to another 10 minutes left, but I can also end early if no one else has any. Okay. We got a few more. All right. If you are making a social media platform using Motoko, what is the best way for users to access each other's data? Ooh, Christine. Well, like we said, if you want to do extras on your core projects, get the bare minimum requirements completed first, because we need to compare apples to apples. So make sure it's only extra time when you add bells and whistles. But yeah, no, we can talk about that as far as social media platform using Motoko. What's the best way for users to access each other's data?
I don't see those questions. Yeah, I mean, it depends on like what you want to achieve with your social media platform. There are some projects that kind of want to push data sovereignty, I don't know how to pronounce it. And the idea is that basically the user that produces the data that is then like kind of consumed or displayed in the social media that decides who's allowed to request it. So if I, for example, if I create a profile on a social media dApp and I write down like my name, my address, my relatives, my date of birth and all of that, that I could decide who is able to see this information. So for example, if you're sending me a friend request, I could basically then in an interface say, okay, you're allowed to know my name, you're allowed to know my date of birth, but I don't want to like really like share where I live or something like that. So yeah, there's like no real best way, I would say. It kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve. So you can be creative.
Yeah, and so like I think the usual normal way is for user information to be states on a canister or an application, and the application logic then, based on their settings, displays or doesn't display data to certain users. But one of the interesting things we do have, like you mentioned, some projects like OpenChat, where they take it to kind of a new extreme. That's kind of interesting. So like every user has their own canister on OpenChat. So you've got like a sovereign canister dedicated just for you on OpenChat. And there's also one where another project where it's like a storage, like a file storage dApp, and you have your own canister per user that stores files and data for you. So it depends on where you want to go with the sovereignty, and this is honestly an area of innovation that has no one specific answer. All right, Jacobo, I'm trying to use this repo and I'm following the steps, and it's the Svelte Motoko starter repo. I'm using an M1 Mac, and it's supposed, I said follow the other steps for installing internet identity, but the link at these steps is pointing to itself. Is there something different I need to do if I'm running on a Mac? Yeah, make sure that you read the README on that repo pretty well, because I think it sounds like the problem you're running into is the internet identity folder that's in there. It's for creating a replica of internet identity for local testing. And yeah, so like you really don't need all of that if you're just deploying. But that's for local testing. So there's something quite specific to that. What I would recommend is going ahead and getting some screenshots of the specific errors that you're running into for your system, and going to the ask questions like forum and in Discord, and we can kind of handle it there because it seems like it's a little bit more specific. And more, it's also sent to you a link right here in the Q&A. All right, Christian Salvadora, does it support real-time communication like WebSockets? Focus is not the moment, but this is something that Affinity Foundation is exploring, and he provided 2 great links. Foco, could you go ahead and post those on the general chat and Discord? I think that's pretty cool.
Sure.
Info there. Thanks for a great question. Thanks for asking that, Christian. Anonymous Tindi asks, how can I become a node provider in data center, and how much it costs, and will it be profitable? I mean, yeah, all of these are kind of hard to answer, a little bit outside the scope of this, but basically the Internet Identity, the Internet Computer Association, ICA, it has a website. You fill out a form to kind of get the process started, and the association is an association of node providers, and it's specifically for like helping the onboarding of node providers. As far as how much it costs, I think the last estimate I heard was, I mean, it's not like specific dedicated hardware, but it's really high level, like a higher performance requirements to keep up. You have to keep up with the network, and so I want to say it's like $60,000 for like getting a machine that's capable of handling the kind of performance requirements that you need. And I mean, I personally know of one node provider, and I'm assuming it's profitable because they keep getting nodes and adding more nodes to it. So people typically don't want to add more money to something that's not making them money. So I don't know the specific numbers, but I don't think node providers are in trouble. I'll put it that way. I'm not sure if it's wildly profitable, but yeah, it's something you're gonna probably have to do the math with, and probably have to explore on your own in more depth, because that's a deeper topic, I guess. All right, HG, do you know of anyone in the community who's using Dart for the front end? Would be great to contact him or her. I came across agents, Dart, and II integrate, and Internet Identity integration. I personally don't. Do either of y'all know anyone using Dart?
Me neither, but you can just like contact the creator of the repository, I guess. Yeah, I would just try and reach out to them.
Yeah, it's from AstroX, and they have their own Discord server. It's called yeah, the Discord server is called AstroX.
Yeah. So AstroX, yeah, they have a few projects, because they've got like I think they've got Lighthouse, that exchange, and they've got a wallet. Yeah. So yeah, I'll get with the AstroX team.
They can contact Mario. Thank you on Twitter. Mario is like, you can it's the guy that create ICA.
He hangs around in that Discord.
Oh yeah. So
there's Discord.
They're talking, but basically, yeah, the Discord is a good place to go. The AstroX Discord server. All right, we have another couple minutes of time for like 1 or 2 more questions. All right, Christian has asked, since there's no WebSockets yet, does polling consume more cycles?
Query calls are free, and polling is done through query calls.
Yeah, so Foco said query calls are free, and polling is done through query calls.
If you expose it as a query call.
If you expose it as a query call. So, and that's another important thing that I want to hit home with. So like think of like the Ethereum network. It's pretty much free for anyone to read information off of the Ethereum network. But if you want to change state, you have to pay gas. So in a similar way, like when you declare that a function is a query function, it doesn't have to go through consensus. You're just saying, I just want information from this canister. And so it's going to be more performance and not cost cycles. Whereas if you omit that, it's assuming that this function is going to change state, and therefore it's going to try to push it all through consensus. And so just something to keep in mind, it basically to polling correctly by doing as a query.
Yeah, and the JS agent polls automatically if you make an update call until the update call is done. So I don't know what the use case is here, but if you just want the response from an update call, that happens automatically.
And maybe another thing to throw into the discussion is that currently query calls are free, but in the future there are plans to actually also make them cost cycles. So I wouldn't like entirely build on the fact that they are free for now, if that's like a important fact for your dev.
Yeah, and I'm sure though, even if they did cost cycles, I'm sure it wouldn't cost like an arm and a leg. Like the point is, if you have enough to where the cost is substantial, you probably have a good dApp that you're making money off of, hopefully at least. All right, well, if there's no more questions, going once, going twice, and gone. All right, we're at the end of the hour. No more questions. Thank you so much for your time today during this DevMentor hour. I hope it was valuable, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.